We're back on this 2021 Porsche, and I'm trying to follow the refrigerant line circuit. It's an electric vehicle. Here we got what looks like a electronic expansion valve right there. Metering device. Do you see the liquid lines right there? That's not a simple, it's a 3-wire. So it's not a simple on-off solenoid. By looking at the shape of it, it literally has some valve gearing inside, it meters. Now, if you look down below, you see down there's some air conditioning lines down there. I'm not sure. Oh, that's a plate heat exchanger. That's what that is. So that is the expansion valve, it looks like, for that plate heat exchanger where you see coolant lines. You see this coolant line right there? Those two coolant lines? If you follow them, they bend downwards in that plate heat exchanger. Can you see the fins of the plate heat exchanger? Let me zoom in. Between those two hoses, it won't focus there, sorry about that. But that's a liquid glycol plate heat exchanger that the refrigerant is feeding into. And you could see a line going down back there. And this other suction line, that suction line right there, goes to the center of the dash through the firewall right there. That's for the cabin passenger system. So that is the secondary refrigerant system off the primary electric compressor that is located right there. There you go, there's your sanding. That's your electric compressor, and it splits up and it Ys. That's a Y right here. You wouldn't know this because here's a straight pipe, goes straight over to here, but this is actually a Y right there. Another pipe going right there, your suction line, and that's off of a plate heat exchanger that will either have hot or cool glycol running through it, and it comes in from up here. So this is probably part of, there's a massive refrigerant in there going to this liquid plate heat exchanger, and I could see when it stabilizes and cools off, all the oil comes out of suspension, and this refrigerant line is probably high, has refrigerant. It condenses, goes to saturation, the oil and refrigerant come back down here, dump right here at this little J, and it acts as an oil trap and refrigerant trap. So this whole section of line right here fills up with oil and refrigerant once it turns back into from a vapor, and it dumps right there. Well, that other line, it comes right up to the suction right here. So when you do a recovery, you drop the pressure. When you instantly drop the pressure, this little U trap, which is like in your toilet or in your sink, you have the P trap, which stops the vapors from coming back up from the sewage system to coming into your house. You have a P trap, and the P trap stays filled with water. Well, in this case, when the system shuts off, all the refrigerant oil and refrigerant are all dumping back here to this low little U, because from this point on, part of it goes up that way, part of it goes up this way, right behind this fender right here, and everything is gathering there. So when you drop the pressure, that oil is turning into a foam, and the refrigerant travel up towards here. And just like you have whipped cream, when you shake up whipped cream, it has nitrous oxide in it, in the whipping cream. And when it comes and it lowers into a lower pressure, the atmosphere, from being whipped cream with nitrous oxide, that is actually like CO2 and Coca-Cola, when it hits the atmosphere, because it's in a thick buttery form because of the butter, it foams up like styrofoam, or it foams up like great stuff, that stuff at Home Depot, that expanding foam. It foams up, it travels up the tube, and all the refrigerant oil gets sucked out into your recovery machine. So that is what's causing that, and I had to know why, because it's just how I am. I have to know how every circuit, why something fails, why, if I see a certain particular car, like General Motors on some of the pickup trucks, they had the compressor up here, and you had the high side and low side fittings right on top of the compressors. And guys would hook up their recovery units, especially ones who didn't have train guys and didn't know they had to look and see that oil was being sucked out. It would literally suck out oil right out of the compressor. And Then they would charge it up with refrigerant, not put oil inside. 1 or 2 years later, the compressor dies from oil starvation. It doesn't happen right away. So this is a scenario on this vehicle. When you do a refrigerant recovery on this vehicle, it just sucks up a whole shitload of oil. And that's how this one is working. Plate heat exchanger, electric compressor. Wonder what the price of that electric compressor is. And if this had a catastrophic burnout, you would be replacing that electronic expansion valve. You would be replacing the plate heat exchanger. Start adding these prices up. You'd be flushing what you can flush, and you would be replacing that expansion valve, all because somebody didn't know what they were doing when they were recovering refrigerant. See you guys later.